Girl, I love you, yeah. What if you, yeah.
Amazing new building projects are being developed around the world every day that incorporate new design ideas that look incredible. Join me for today's video. I'm going to count down 15 of the future building developments that are amazing. Number 15, the Jeddah Tower. Alright, the first entry on our list doesn't quite exist just yet, but it's on its way to becoming one of the most impressive buildings of any kind in the world. Construction on the Diamond Tower in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, began in 2016, but it was unfortunately put on hold in July of 2020. But what makes the Diamond Tower so special? Well, the twisting tower is set to be 1,400 feet high with 93 stories and will be Saudi Arabia's second tallest building, as well as one of the tallest residential buildings in the world. Imagine waking up every morning to the sunrise on the 93rd floor. That'd be great. The Diamond Tower was also designed to twist a full 360 degrees around from the top to the bottom, making it the first building in the world to do that. When this skyscraper will actually be done is anybody's guess, but it's without a doubt one of the most ambitious architectural undertakings ever. This project's on track to cost at least $1.5 billion, and when you've got that much money involved in something like this, there tend to be some controversial findings in the books. Saudi Arabia has recently begun to crack down on corruption, and many of the business people bankrolling the Jeddah Tower have found themselves caught in the middle and thrown in the slammer under the pretense that their financial involvement is one big financial scheme. Number 14, the Abraj Qudai. The Abraj Qudai is in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and while it's still under construction, it's set to be the largest hotel in the world. Well, more of a complex than a singular hotel. The Abraj Qudai is set to be a ring of 12 towers covering almost 11 million square feet, all 45 stories high and with a total of 10,000 bedrooms. At this point, the hotel could probably be its own city, but that's not all. The plans for the most extravagant hotel in the world is also including 70 restaurants and even 4 rooftop helipads. And then there are the 5 floors that will be built exclusively for the private use of the Saudi royal family. And while the odds of the hotel guests rubbing shoulders with royalty are slim to none, just knowing you're in the same building should make you feel like you're a king or queen for a day. 10 out of the 12 towers will provide 4-star accommodations, but if you've got the cash, the other 2 towers will provide guests with 5-star accommodations.
A suit does a lot for an image to read, but it won't fool the people still watching.
5-star accommodations and amenities. And while all this sounds amazing, the project has run into a few speed bumps, mainly financial, as the estimated costs are closer to $4 billion. But seeing as how the location is revered by many as one of the holiest places in the world, when the Abraj Qudai is finally finished, it could potentially see millions of guests a year, recouping all that money in no time. And for a hotel built near such a holy site, it makes perfect sense that it should reach towards the heavens. Number 13, King Salman Park. Imagine being such a big deal that you've got an entire park named after you before you've even died. Well, that's exactly the case with King Salman Park in Saudi Arabia. King Salman Park is already running a bill of $20 billion in government funding, and it's still looking for another $15 billion in private investments. So needless to say, this is one ambitious mega project. It's 4 times the size of New York City's Central Park, stretching out over 5 square miles of space and sitting on the site of an old. The park will have its own stop on the metro and offer plenty of Islamic-themed architecture and gardens, including a butterfly conservatory, circular walkway, a 5-mile valley, and everyone's favorite, a labyrinth. But aside from some gorgeous nature, King Salman Park will also have both an indoor and outdoor theater as part of the art section, and even 7 separate museums. But if for some reason arts and culture aren't really your thing, then there are still the luxury sports facilities that house space for not just things like golf, but even a 160,000 square yard water sports arena. When King Salman Park is finally complete, hopefully by 2030, it's going to be insane. Number 12, Riverside Center. The Upper West Side is home to the upper echelon of New York City, but now even the wealthiest of New Yorkers may be priced out with the onset of the area's most recent mega project. The Riverside Center involved an 8-acre development over an old industrial lot and exposed rail yards that were overdue for a makeover. Taking up space between 59th and 61st Streets on the west side, the Riverside Center is conceived and designed by the developer Extel with some help from the Dermot Company, and construction on 5 of those 8 buildings has already begun. So far, though, it looks like the gem of Riverside City is the new building at 21 West End Avenue, which is a 43-story, 616-unit residential building that will offer some of the best views of the island that money can buy. Then there is the Waterline Square, which consists of 3 mixed-use towers as well that will bring in both homes, jobs, and money into the Upper West Side. These new skyscrapers are designed by some pretty big names in architecture, like Raphael Vinoli, Cohn Peterson Fox, and Richard Meyer. Folks looking to Riverside City can also expect to see a brand new park that connects all 3 of these new West Side skyscrapers, blending nature and technology into one harmonious entity. Number 11, One Za'abil. Despite the name, One Za'abil is actually a duo of skyscrapers set to dominate the Dubai skyline any day now. There's a lot going on here, with plenty of high-end residences and shopping, as it's expected to be in Dubai by now. But the icing on the cake is what's known as the Link. On track to be the longest cantilever in the world, the Link connects the 2 skyscrapers at One Za'abil and will have some of the best views in the entire emirate. The Link is almost 600 feet up and will extend just over 740 feet out over the city. This thing is not to be missed, and there really won't be anything like it in the world. And of course, if extreme heights of the Link aren't quite your thing, don't worry, because there's still plenty of restaurants run by some of the best chefs in the world on lower levels. And when all is said and done, One Za'abil will have cost over $1 billion to create. There are plenty of mega projects in Dubai to marvel at, but this one's gonna put them all to aim, which is by no means an easy feat. Number 10, Tung Chung New Town Expansion. The North Lantau New Town is the newest of the 9 new towns in Hong Kong that is located on the northern coast of Lantau Island in the New Territories. It covers a large part of the reclaimed land and is the only new town in the island district, and it's the youngest new town in all of Hong Kong. It's got a current population of nearly 200,000 people, and it's the subject of a new expansion plan that would examine the development potential and opportunities of Tung Chung, as well as improve the community and regional facilities. This new town is getting an upgrade and a facelift to somehow make it even newer. The Tung Chung New Town expansion involves a 3-stage public engagement exercise that was launched by the Planning, Civil Engineering, and Development Departments, and the hard plans were officially drafted in 2017. The next year, this expansion project was put into physical action, and about 320 acres of land was reclaimed in order for the first phase of this mega project to begin. When Phase 1 is officially complete, the area will have enough space to accommodate another 140,000 people. It's the first reclaimed land for the new town expansion since the Singkwang-o South Reclamation in 2003, which wrapped up its final phase as the new town expansion began, completing the Hong Kong mega project cycle. Number 9, the Red Sea Project. Right between the coastal cities of Rouge and Al-Waj in Saudi Arabia is the site of an absurdly large $10 billion mega project, the Red Sea Project. And this is a big one. Initially announced in 2017, the Red Sea Project is set for completion in 2030. This is another tourist grab. The Red Sea Project will be a luxury mixed-use resort spanning an archipelago of islands in, you guessed it, the Red Sea. And it does absolutely look stunning, to say the least. The entire region will span near 12,000 square miles, which is also home to a dormant volcano. And seeing as the desert tends to be warm all the time, the luxury archipelago will be available for visitors year-round, expected to bring in almost $6 billion a year. But just because it's all on the water doesn't mean you'll need to wait for a boat to take you there, because the Red Sea Project will include its own airport too. As it stands, this location incorporates a coastline untouched by modern man, which is home to all sorts of archaeological sites important to Saudi Arabian culture and history, which visitors will be able to appreciate from a respectful distance. And just because the Red Sea Project's hotels will hold a total of 8,000 rooms doesn't mean the area needs to suffer from human activity. The developers here are working hard to make sure the resort is sustainable with a zero waste to landfill policy, 100% carbon neutrality, and a ban on single-use plastics. Hopefully, unlike the volcano, the Red Sea Project will erupt with a nice cash flow. Number 8, Bronx Point. While the island of Manhattan may be a major hub of culture and commerce, you can't forget about the other boroughs. The Bronx is the birthplace of a lot of great people, but it's home to more than just stars who have moved on and the Yankees. And so the city is looking to remind the rest of us of that fact with their newest mega project, Bronx Point. Bronx Point is the joint venture mega project from the L&M Development Partners and Type A Projects that will provide both residential and retail spaces to be enjoyed. They broke ground in 2020, and while they certainly have a ways to go, there is quite literally nowhere to go but up. But unlike so many mega projects in New York and the rest of the world, the Bronx Point isn't meant to cater to the wealthiest of society. Instead, the developers are looking to provide affordable housing for those who need it without skimping out on style and taste. The housing will sit along the Harlem River within the lower concourse and will bring 1,045 units to the masses. But they want living in Bronx Point to be fun, which is why the new Universal Hip Hop Museum will live here, as well as a new waterfront esplanade and a park connecting the Mill Pond Park, the Public Plaza, and a much-wanted multiplex theater. Bronx Point, it's the type of place you'll never want to leave. Number 7, Al Maktoum International Airport expansion. The Dubai International Airport is a great place to fly through. It's huge and feels incredibly upscale. But it's not to be outdone by the next mega project from Dubai, the Al Maktoum International Airport. The new airport aims to put all the other international terminals to shame, and while it's still under construction, it's currently the largest mega project in the world. The project has recently moved into the expansion phase, which cost $32 billion alone. The new airport is set to span more than 21 square miles and can fit 200 wide-body aircraft at a time, and should see about 200 million passengers a year. Damn, that's a lot of travelers. And that's not to mention all of the money these people will be spending on all of the other mega projects that Dubai has in store for them. The project is still very much in the works, and there's no set completion date, but when all is said and done, the entire Al Maktoum International Airport will cost the Emirate close to $90 billion. That may be a lot of dough, but it's peanuts compared to the amount of cash the airport will bring in when all is said and done, and it shouldn't take too long for them to earn all that money back. Number 6, Torch Tower. The city of Tokyo has some pretty spectacular architecture and some pretty wild building designs, even with the Asahi Beer Tower looking like a giant mug of beer. So it should come as no surprise that the city's Torch Tower gets its inspiration from a torch. This proposed skyscraper is currently under construction, and it's set to open its doors in 2027. When it's topped out, the Torch Tower will stand just under 1,300 feet tall, making it the tallest building in Japan and one of the tallest in the world. The entire thing will look out over one of the city's park plazas and set to be part of a larger 340,000 square foot complex. Shops and restaurants will take up most of the lower floors, with the majority of the 63 floors serving as office space for the country's salarymen. But the Torch Tower isn't just about making money. Cleanliness and communal baths are a big part of Japanese culture, which is why the Torch Tower will have a massive bathhouse known as a Sento. Tokyo can be a little crazy at times, with all those bright lights vying for your attention while trying to dodge the constant crowds. So having a Sento here will be like having an oasis in the middle of the sprawl. The Torch Tower is gonna be lit. Number 5, Bogota Metro. Sometimes a major city is only as good as its metro line. You can almost feel the pulse of places like New York City, London, and even Tokyo with their metro or subway lines acting like veins, and the trains themselves pumping through the cities like blood making its way to the heart. Well, Bogota, Colombia is planning to become a living, breathing entity as well with their new Bogota Metro. While construction on the new metro only began in 2020, plans for the project began all the way back in the 1950s. Plans were being drafted until a military coup threw a wrench in things, and the city opted for a bus-based public transit system. Cut to the 1980s, and the Colombian government, along with civil engineers, were looking at building 5 metro lines that would have cost about $800 million. But another military coup on top of a volcanic eruption derailed those plans, no pun intended. Needless to say, the country has been through a lot in its day, but that didn't stop anyone from moving forward with these plans as best they could. But even so, the prospect of a mega metro project was used primarily as a political tool to gain votes over the years, until a budget was finally drafted in 2008, and final agreement was made in 2013. 2020, when orders were finally placed for the trains themselves, and multiple firms entered the picture to help excavate the tunnels. In the end, this mega project's on track to cost well over $5 billion. But the people of Bogota are long overdue for a proper, well-oiled metro system. Number 4, Northern Metropolis Development Strategy. As of 2020, Hong Kong's got a population of about 7.5 million people, and the area just covers about 430 square miles. So when you have that many people in that small of a space, there are bound to be some housing issues. But the Hong Kong government's been able to identify about 500 acres of land that can produce about 330,000 public housing units over the next decade or so. Now, when it comes to public housing, those who need it the most typically have to wait about 6 years before anything really happens. So the local government's hoping to cut that time down significantly with their housing and land increase project. The Northern Metropolis Development Strategy is an incredibly ambitious project, so there are unfortunately a few hurdles and hoops the government will have to jump through. First, the Hong Kong government must claim the land for public housing from the original owners while taking their best interests into account as well.
Since I'm a student in college, I use my internet for class. Also, I like to play the video game and stuff like
owners while taking their best interests into account as well. And the owners have the right to challenge the appropriation of this land. And once the housing is built, infrastructure like rail systems, roads, and highways need to be implemented to increase accessibility. But the biggest issue here is money, of course. The government hasn't yet calculated what the Northern Metropolis Development Strategy will cost. But when it comes to building and developing new cities, it can cost about $1 million per future resident. And if Hong Kong's looking to build 330,000 housing units, then they're looking at one big bill. Number 3, 2 World Trade Center. When the Twin Towers fell in 2001, they left an incredibly big hole in the lives of New Yorkers. Not only was it a horrific day, but the Twin Towers stood as a beacon of New York pride for so long. So needless to say, the buildings that would go up in their place had some pretty big shoes to fill. One World Trade went up in 2012, and it became the tallest building in the city, the tallest in the Western Hemisphere, and the 7th tallest in the world. But another skyscraper has been proposed to go up in the World Trade Center complex, simply known as 2 World Trade Center. 2 World Trade is designed by Norman Foster and will act as a residential building. But the building was working backward, looking for enough tenants to agree to the apartment mock-ups and prices first. But by 2015, they couldn't find enough people to live in the unrealized space. So it was back to the drawing board. Cut to 2020, and new plans have come into play to build an 82-story building that stands over 1,300 feet tall. But the new and improved design goes for a more stacked concept, with glass rectangle-shaped structures working their way all the way up. All the designers need are some heavy-hitting partners and wealthy corporate tenants to agree to move in, and they can finally break ground. Number 2, Dubai City Tower. You absolutely can't talk about proposed skyscrapers without mentioning Dubai. It's just about impossible. The city's implemented its Dubai 2030 plan, which promises to bring in all new complexes, skyscrapers, museums, and the like by, you guessed it, 2030. But the Dubai City Tower is one that's proposed that really has people's mouths watering. This building is quickly on track to be one of the tallest buildings ever envisioned, at over 7,800 feet tall. And when it's done, it's going to stand 5,000 feet taller than the Burj Khalifa, which is already the tallest building in the world. The Dubai City Tower was proposed in 2008 and will hopefully be completed by 2025, but the chances are unlikely. So by the time this list gets uploaded, we'll only have to wait another 2 or 3 years to see if this building kisses the sky. This proposal envisions 400 floors with an internal core and another 6 outer buildings that connect with it at every 100 floors. This is an incredibly ambitious project, and the idea of that many buildings essentially weaving their way in and out of each other as they reach towards the sky is quite perplexing. But if you don't dream big, then I guess you can't build big. But a 400-story building means millions of stairs, right? Well, not for the Dubai City Tower. Instead of taking up the elevator to the top floor, the building will have vertical bullet trains to take passengers at top speeds of 125 miles an hour. Talk about skyrocketing to the top. Number 1, Shimizu Megacity Pyramid. Shimizu Megacity Pyramid. Well, what is there really to say about this structure? Well, actually, there's a lot. This proposed skyscraper is absolutely nuts, but if it's completed, it would go down as one of the coolest buildings in the world. The Shimizu Megacity Pyramid would sit in Tokyo Bay and could be an enormous self-sustaining pyramid full of businesses and office buildings, parks, homes, and everything else you need for a megacity. If it goes to plan, architects will use 5 trusses stacked on top of each other to build this 6,500-foot tall beast. Tokyo is one of the most populated cities in the world, and if you live there, or have even only visited, you'll know the feeling of being on top of one another. But the Shimizu Megacity Pyramid will help to alleviate that feeling by creating more space. It may only be able to accommodate just a small fraction of the population, with a capacity for about 1 million people, but any amount helps. So why haven't they started working on this thing yet? Well, the technology hasn't quite caught up to the idea yet. The structure is far too large to be built using current conventional methods and materials because of its sheer weight. Folks are banking on the development of super strong yet lightweight materials made of carbon nanotubes and graphene, both of which are already in their respective research phase. But the teams behind the megacity would love to start construction in 2030. But as of right now, that's still just a dream. The Shimizu Corporation behind this outlandish skyscraper pyramid hybrid is hoping to have the project completed by 2110 at the earliest. So when it's completed, the Shimizu Megacity Pyramid will be the largest man-made structure on the planet. But it's highly unlikely that anyone alive today will be able to see the finished product. I'll see you next time. Watch our binge-watching playlist.
The city's gonna break your heart though. The city's gonna break my heart, but they gonna break your heart though. Yeah.